This is the best of the week on Relevant Radio.
This is a note that comes in from Keaton listening on the Relevant Radio app. He says, it was incredible to see a pope from the United States. What an inspiring event. He says, to know that he is originally from the Midwest, like I myself, seems to hit a little differently as a Wisconsin native who essentially grew up in and around Green Bay. He says, my question for you is, how do you think this impacts the priesthood in the United States? Do you think now the reality of having a pope who's originally from the U.S., who's dedicated his time in other countries, other nations, inspires young men to enter the priesthood or to some form of life dedicated to Christ? Well, I think that's the $64,000 question, Keaton, and I hope the answer to the $64,000 question is yes, it will have an effect in terms of engendering added interest on the part of young men for the priesthood. Now, I'm close to this topic for a couple of reasons. One is I've had sons, 4 of them, who went through the seminary. Actually, all 4 of them discerned they wanted to get married. They didn't know the girl at the time, but eventually after they left the seminary, then they wound up getting married. So as the father of men who investigated the priesthood, and also I, later in life, working a full-time job, raising a family, I went back to school and got a few other degrees, and I did so at a large major seminary. So I was sitting in the classroom 3 days a week with seminarians, and I got to know them, and I experienced not their community life, but I experienced their academic life for the years that I was gaining these extra degrees. And so I understood just through that experience a lot more about seminary life and seminary formation, etc. And I'm also on the board of directors of a large major seminary. And so I have that really up close and personal understanding of formation and community, etc. So the one thing I can tell you, drawing upon these experiences, is that whether it's Pope John Paul II or to some extent Pope Benedict XVI, and it remains to be seen now about Pope Leo XIV, although I'm very hopeful, I would not be at all surprised if the pattern continues, and that is that young men are inspired by the Pope. And they see in Pope John Paul II, for example, I want to be like him. There are a lot of young priests, and some who are not quite so young anymore, who would self-identify as the John Paul II generation, John Paul II priests, who maybe by going to World Youth Day, some of them are listening right now. Some of them are bishops now. I've met some bishops over the years who discovered their priesthood, discovered their vocation from the Lord to the priesthood as a result of maybe seeing Pope John Paul II giving a talk, or maybe they went to World Youth Day. So there are any number of people like that. And I have every confidence that not only because he's an American, but he's younger, and he's, by all appearances anyway, he seems to be a very vibrant, not flashy, not like type A personality kind of guy. I think he's not that way. But I wouldn't be surprised if his presence on the world stage, in fact, is a catalyst for more of those kind of vocations. And that's my hope, too. I think it would be a wonderful thing. And maybe we'll see many more American men who will be pursuing the priesthood as a result. You can join me by listening to The Patrick Madrid Show on the Relevant Radio app, live each weekday at 8 to 11 a.m. And thanks for listening.